Welcome to the Sober and Happy podcast, where we talk about all things recovery related, how to navigate the challenges that we'll face along the way on our journey towards our best lives, and how we could go from living a life as simply just being sober to a life where we're both sober and happy. Today we're exploring a powerful and transformative topic: how to reframe our thoughts about addiction. For so many people struggling with addiction, there are underlying beliefs or associations that hold them back from fully embracing sobriety. Maybe it's the idea that you could only have fun when you're drunk, or that your drinking is what keeps you connected to certain people in your life. Today we're going to challenge these beliefs and explore how reframing your thoughts could help you break free from the mental chains of addiction. So buckle up. This is going to be a great episode. Welcome back. I decided to do this podcast episode after a conversation with my friend Terry. She has been sober for several years, and despite being able to kick the booze, no matter how many times she has tried, quitting smoking has been something she has continued to struggle with despite trying just about every method for quitting. So, I wasn't surprised to get another text from her saying she was going to try quitting smoking again. What did surprise me was her new outlook on what she thinks is holding her back. In her text, she said, "I'm looking at the emotional side. I could work through the physical, but it is tied to my past and my mom. I feel it is my connection to her and my past. Letting go is letting go of her." She went on to explain that when she sits and smokes, all of the memories of her mom sit with her. She also mentioned that it reminds her of her teenage years and spending time with her friends, many of them who are now gone. All of her memories with those people she loves revolved around smoking, and she feels like if she quit smoking, she would be losing those connections. Now, even if you're not a smoker, I'm sure you've gone through something similar to the fear that she is experiencing. We often go through many stages of defending our addictive habits. Initially, we could tell ourselves that it isn't that bad or that we will quit before it gets out of control. But at some point, the addiction gets to the point where we could no longer deny that it isn't a problem. Then, we might experience a period of recognition of the problem. However, you might think that the benefits still outweigh the consequences. Eventually, though, the consequences pile up and the benefits are far and few between, but the addiction has a complete hold on us, so we justify it saying that we need it to function. When I was in this stage, I usually said things like, "Yeah, but if you've been through what I have, you would need to drink too." But the stage my friend Terry is in could be one of the hardest to get past because it's where we attach something to our addiction that we feel would be too painful to let go. For many people, it's their identity. This usually comes in the form of statements like, "I only know how to have fun when I drink." For many of us, it is also the fear of losing parts of our life that we don't want to let go of, like our friends that we drink with, or in the case of Terry, the memory of her mom. From the outside looking in, we may be able to realize that her memories of her mom are not going to disappear if she quits smoking, but rational thinking and emotions often clash. It doesn't matter if that thought is real or not because the fear around it is real, and the feeling in our bodies when we experience fear is undeniable. It's like when a kid is scared of a monster under their bed or is afraid that the boogeyman is in the closet. You could tell them that it isn't real and they just need to close their eyes and go to bed, but they will just sit up much of the night still staring at that closet door waiting for it to open and the boogeyman to appear. It is much more effective to acknowledge their fear, show them that it isn't real by opening up the closet and looking under the bed with them, tell them that you will keep them safe, and do that over and over until the feeling of being protected becomes stronger than the fear of the boogeyman. The only way the fear disappears is by breaking the old association in their minds and creating new ones. When we talk about addiction, one of the most challenging things to address is the way our brains form associations. Whether you realize it or not, every time you engage in your addictive behavior, whether it is drinking, using, or any other habit, you're reinforcing an emotional bond between that behavior and specific experiences or feelings. You might associate drinking with being able to unwind, loosen up, or connect with your friends. But these associations are often based on old patterns of thinking, and they could hold you back from seeing the truth about your addiction. Now let's dive deeper into the power of belief. So many of our beliefs about addiction are based on past experiences, and our brain, in an effort to help us cope and feel good, reinforces those beliefs over time. The brain loves patterns. It's constantly looking for shortcuts to make life easier for us. It is how, after a certain period of time, you could drive to work without consciously thinking about the directions from your house to where you work. It is very effective in making daily tasks easier, but unfortunately, when it comes to addiction, these patterns can become harmful. Think of your mind like a computer that's constantly storing data. Every time you use alcohol or drugs to relax or socialize, you're essentially coding that behavior as the solution to those emotions or situations. Your brain is conditioned to believe that your substance of choice is the only way to feel relaxed or connected. But just like outdated software, these beliefs need an upgrade, and that upgrade starts with reframing your thoughts. One of the most common associations people have with addiction is that substances are tied to fun. Maybe you think, I only have fun when I'm drunk, or I need to have a drink to have a good time at a party. But here's the thing. Fun doesn't come from a bottle. Fun is an experience you create with your mindset and the people around you. Imagine being raised by parents who never let you leave the house as a kid. They give you a few toys to play with that might not be as fun as you have grown older, but they still are the only toys you have. Now imagine when you're 12, you're finally allowed to leave the house on the condition that you must leave those few toys behind. You have no idea that the world is full of toys to play with. There could even be a Walmart right down the road with aisles full of toys. But since you've never seen it before, the only thought in your mind is those few toys you'll have to leave behind. Addiction is like being trapped in that house. It might have been fun initially, but although it might have worn off some, it is still the only fun we know. The world outside of addiction is like a never-ending toy aisle at Walmart. But since we have never seen it before, we often choose to stay in the house out of fear of losing the only thing we know. To break free of this pattern, we must start reframing our thoughts and beliefs. Let's start by talking about what reframing means. Reframing is the process of changing the way you view a situation, a thought, or a belief. It's about taking something that feels negative or limiting and looking at it from a different angle with the goal of finding a more empowering or constructive perspective. Now let's get practical. How exactly do you go about reframing your beliefs about addiction? This is where the real work comes in, and it's a process that takes time and patience, but the rewards are worth it. The first step in reframing is becoming aware of your beliefs. Start by paying attention to the thoughts you have about your addiction. What do you tell yourself when you think about quitting? Do you hear things like, I can't relax without a drink, or I'll never be able to have fun without drugs? Write these beliefs down. The act of writing helps bring them into light where you could examine them more objectively. Once you've identified a limiting belief, ask yourself if it's true. Is alcohol really the only way to relax? Are there other people in your life who manage to unwind without drinking? Start to poke holes in that belief and create some doubt around it. Now, think about alternatives to your belief. For example, if you've always believed that you need substances to connect with friends, try asking yourself, how could I connect with them without drinking? Maybe it's through a shared activity, a deep conversation, or simply being present in the moment. The next step is where the transformation comes from. Start experimenting with new behaviors and see what happens. If you're used to drinking to relax after work, try meditating, exercising, or spending time with a loved one instead. At first, your brain is going to freak out and resist. It's used to the shortcut and will tell you, nope, you need that drink. But over time, as you continue reframing your thoughts and experimenting with new behaviors, you'll start to create new patterns. And just like the old patterns, these new ones will get stronger the more you practice them. And lastly, don't forget to celebrate the small wins. Reframing is a process, and it's important to celebrate even the smallest victories along the way. Each time you successfully challenge a limiting belief and replace it with a healthier one, take a moment to acknowledge that progress. Over time, these small wins will add up to big changes in how you think and feel. If we go through this process with my friend Terry, she already had identified the limiting beliefs around smoking and how it is the only connection to her mother and old friends. The next step is challenging that belief. She could do this by challenging the thought that she will lose connection to those memories if she stopped smoking. Are those memories going to really go up in smoke when she stops smoking? Or is it just a fear that has been reinforced for so many years that it just feels real? Now, at this point of the process, she might be thinking something like, I know I won't lose those memories, but it is the only time that I feel that connection strongly. That might be true now, but is that because there is no other way? Or is it because her addiction convinced her at some point, and it has been reinforced hundreds of thousands of times with each cigarette she has smoked? Now, that number is not an exaggeration, and it's eye-opening in terms of how powerful the reinforcement of that emotional connection is. That is why we need to find something even more powerful to replace it with. I have known Terry for many years, and I know that she dreams of writing a memoir. However, that story has remained in her heart and has yet to be put on paper. I asked her today to explain why writing it means so much to her. She responded, because I want to help give people a leg up who feel helpless but have been through similar circumstances and feel unheard or misunderstood. The next step would be for her to ask how it would feel to write that memoir. But we don't stop there. How would it feel to write it with the memory of her mother inspiring her along the way? Through their connection and Terry's writing, they could let people know that they could rise above circumstances, mental illness, and addiction. That no matter where you are now, that things can get better. Right now, her only association is with the habit that is killing her. But what if the thing she fears she will be letting go of is just a barrier keeping her from experiencing a much deeper and stronger connection? If that connection feels so strong that she continues to hold on to a habit that she wants to be free of, how much stronger could that connection grow if she replaced it with something that could help her heal and grow instead and inspire so many other people? The only way to find out is to start working towards creating new connections to reprogram her thoughts and mind. You cannot think your way through this. It requires repetitive action. In her case, when she thinks about smoking, she could open up the laptop and write instead. Since she would be working towards creating that new association, she could strengthen that by doing something like changing the wallpaper on her computer to something that reminds her of her mom or putting a meaningful picture on the wall near her desk. She could also pause before and after writing to connect emotionally with her mom and tell her how much the book will help others. It is about trying different things until she feels a connection with the new habit. It may not feel as strong at first as sitting on her patio and having a cigarette does now, but the old habit has been reinforced so often over decades, so it'll take some time for the new connection to go stronger than the old association. But once she hits that tipping point, she will experience the incredible strength of reframing our beliefs. As a side effect, you might just see her on the Amazon bestsellers list when her book is finished, which surely beats the side effects of smoking. This process is like retraining your brain. You're teaching it that there are other, healthier ways to cope with stress, anxiety, or loneliness that used to trigger your addiction. Over time, your brain will start to default to these healthier behaviors instead of automatically reaching for substances. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Your beliefs shape your reality. If you believe that you need alcohol or drugs to function, to have fun, or to connect, then that will be your reality. But if you start to challenge and reframe those beliefs, you open yourself up to a new way of living, one where you could experience joy, connection, and relaxation without substances. So here's my challenge for you this week. Identify one belief that you have about your addiction and take one small step to reframe it. Maybe it's the belief that you need alcohol to unwind, or maybe it's the idea that you'll lose friends if you quit. Whatever it is, challenge that belief, experiment with new behaviors, and see what happens. And remember, you're not alone in this. We're all working through our own beliefs and stories, but the good news is that change is possible. Reframing your thoughts is one of the most powerful tools you have in your recovery journey, and I'm here to support you every step of the way. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you enjoy the podcast. If you are, please do me a favor and grab your phone and text one person who you think might benefit from listening to the podcast. That would mean the world to me. New episodes come out each Friday, so I look forward to connecting with you next week. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and keep living sober and happy.